How's it going, everyone? Thank you all so much for watching Weather with Sim again. I hope you guys are all having a great weekend so far, and as well as a great Saturday. And today is March 8th, 2025, and in today's forecast, we are going to be talking about another large storm that's going to be coming to the United States as we get into the end of next week. And this storm is still getting stronger and stronger the more we look at it on the models, as we could be seeing the potential for widespread severe weather heading from the deep south all the way up through the Mississippi Valley and even into parts there of the Great Lakes region and upper Midwest. So that will be something to really watch for, as this could potentially be the most widespread severe weather outbreak we've seen this year due to area. So we will need to keep an eye on it very closely. And then we could also be talking about some backside snowfall with the system too as well, which will be another thing to keep an eye on very closely. But let's first begin by talking about what we are seeing for the next couple of days, just to give you guys a heads up about what's going on, because you guys can see that today we do have a marginal level 1 out of 5 threat for a few isolated severe storms down here, anywhere from the panhandle of Texas all the way down there into the panhandle of Florida. Main concern for today is going to be the potential for a few isolated spin-up tornadoes, especially across eastern Texas, points eastward into the panhandle of Florida. We aren't expecting anything significant with this system, and I know we didn't talk about this system very much, but it's not going to be as concerning as what we're going to be experiencing at the end of next week, but this will still be something to keep an eye on very closely, as I do think we could even be seeing a little bit of isolated damaging winds and of course large hail. I think large hail is probably going to be the biggest concern, as it does head a little bit more into Texas, but we could still be seeing all hazards for today. But if we do see all of them, we will more than likely see that on the isolated side of things. And then as we get into tomorrow, the severe weather threat does continue into the panhandle of Florida. Once again, not expecting anything significant, but we still could be seeing an isolated tornado or two across Jacksonville, Palm Coast, even over there towards Tallahassee, and then even parts there of extreme southeastern Alabama. Main concern for tomorrow is going to be the potential for some damaging winds, and we might even need to watch for even some large hail as well, but we will still need to be watching it very closely, as even an isolated tornado does appear possible with the system for tomorrow. And then of course, as we get into day 3, which will be after tomorrow for your Monday, we aren't expecting anything severe, but we could be seeing a few coastal storms, so we will watch it very closely. Let's now talk about the real storm system that we're going to be seeing, especially as we get into the very end of next week, because once again, we're going to have this little sneaky storm still ongoing, bringing some isolated severe weather chances down here in the deep south as we head throughout today, tomorrow, and even into Monday. After it heads out, a more concerning storm system will then develop, and look at this, guys. 969 millibars. That is even stronger than what this last storm brought, which is why we're really concerned about potentially some more blizzard conditions on the eastern, not the eastern, but northern and western side of that system, with a lot of severe weather potential on the eastern side and as well as the southern side of that system, guys. Look at this. This is going to really be one of those storms that will be capable of producing potentially a widespread severe weather outbreak, as areas anywhere from the deep south all the way up there into the Great Lakes regions could all experience severe weather. This is going to be something to really keep an eye on very closely as we get into the end of next week. And by looking at the energy values, you guys can see that the latest from the GFS model is really showing some strong amounts of energy from the deep south all the way up there into the upper Midwest. And even though the upper Midwest may not see as much energy down here in the deep south, we are still really concerned about severe weather up here to the north, as they are certainly not used to it as much as these areas farther down to the south. So we will need to be watching for you guys a little farther north closely. This energy does continue eastward, moving across parts there of the mid-Mississippi Valley, and then continuing into parts there of the Ohio Valley, and perhaps even lingering across the Great Lakes region before it continues. But it does start to die down though by the time it does get into places like Ohio and Pennsylvania. But we will still need to watch it very closely, as even a little bit of isolated severe weather may be possible across Florida, and then our next big storm may bring a little bit of severe weather potential down here in the deep south. But as of right now, it's still too far out to really tell. But the next thing that we'll watch for, like I said, is going to be this next big storm as we get into the very end of next week. And then if we compare that to what the European model shows, you guys can see that the European model is actually showing maybe a little bit earlier next week. We may be seeing severe weather as early as Thursday, March 13th next week. So instead of seeing it at the very end of next week, maybe seeing some pretty big severe weather chances as we get into Thursday of next week. And then that should be, done by Friday. And then once again, we're going to have this bigger event rolling on through, as you can see right there, surging in across the upper Midwest, and as well as the central and southern plains, continuing into the mid-Mississippi Valley, and then eventually heading over there into the Ohio Valley, which the European model even shows the energy lasting a little bit longer, even as it gets over here to the East Coast. And like I said, we could be seeing some isolated severe weather potential over here on the East Coast. It's just that the GFS model wants to die down the energy completely before it even reaches the East Coast. So that's going to be a little bit uncertain, as we do not have 100% good model agreement, but both of them do show a widespread severe weather event. Let's now talk about what we're going to be seeing, and this is going to be your total snowfall and also your total rainfall. Starting off with your total snowfall, you guys can see that the latest from the European model is showing a potential snowstorm up here across the upper Midwest, northern Great Lakes region, and as well as these areas out there in the west as we get into March 20th, because you guys can see that we will be seeing that potential for maybe even over a foot of snowfall. We'll have to see what happens. This is a sign that winter may not be completely over, but this is still something to keep an eye on very closely, as some March snowstorms could still unfold. If we compare that to what the GFS model shows, you guys can see that the GFS model actually wants to show potential snowfall a little farther down to the south, which might mean that could, indicate some chances for heavier snowfall for you guys farther down to the south. So once again, something to keep an eye on closely, but obviously not certain as of right now, as it would actually be kind of rare if we did see a snowstorm this far down south, and it's also something that we haven't seen for a little while. So for my opinion, I think the models are kind of doing it or overdoing it a little bit, but you guys should still be paying attention though, as I do think there is the potential for some more snowfall, and best chances will obviously be across the northern United States. And then for your total rainfall, you guys can see that with your total rainfall, we will be tracking some very high rainfall amounts down here in the south and southeast, and perhaps along the east coast, especially across Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, even over there into Tennessee, Kentucky, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, Ohio. All those areas could all experience some potential flash flooding as we get into the next couple of weeks, especially with this next storm, which will be at the very end of next week, potentially bringing chances for flash flooding. And if we compare that to what the European model shows, look at this. European model actually shows a little bit less rainfall compared to the GFS model, but still something to keep an eye on closely, as we could be seeing some flash flood potential. And then one more thing I forgot to look at is going to be the winds. I wanted to warn you guys that these winds will also be a big concern with this next storm. You guys can see that winds, as they start to push on in here, we could be seeing wind gusts as high as 50 miles per hour push on in the Ohio Valley, Midwest, and as well as the Central Plains before all of that continues to head towards the East Coast, still bringing isolated 50 and 60 mile per hour wind gusts as we get into the end of next week, and then maybe even some more wind after that. But we're going to be keeping an eye on that very closely, as even the GFS model does want to show some pretty strong wind gusts, as you can see, and it actually does show more widespread 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts compared to what the European model shows. But once again, it's still a little uncertain about how exactly these wind gusts will play out. But from what we're seeing right now, though, definitely looking concerning, as it even shows kind of a weird shape of 60 mile per hour winds right there. So definitely something to be keeping an eye on very closely. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's weather forecast. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we will be here to keep you all safe and prepared before and after big storms roll on through. Make sure to also like today's video and also share this with friends, family, or anyone who you know on social media. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your weekend out there, and as well as a great rest of your Saturday, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.